It was so surreal. I found my birth mom. So my adoption was closed in the 80s. 1988 is when I was born. They didn't do a lot of open adoptions back then, which meant that the information given to you about your birth mom or whoever filled out the papers was just very limited. So I knew like her hair color, her height, just very basic things. It was 10-ish years ago where I started kind of yearning to know what my story is. And also I was like thinking how cool it would be for me to find her and tell her that she made the right decision, because she was 17 years old. She was really young. This was in 2014 or 15. I did the DNA test from ancestry.com. I got my results back, and it was so cool to see like what my heritage is, what my bloodline is, where my ancestors came from, because I didn't even know any of that. When you take that test, it gives you matches of DNA matches, people's names, ways to message them. It doesn't tell you how you're related to them, it just tells you that you're closely related to them. So I had my matches, and on my adoption papers there was an area that was whited out, and I could see my last name, and it was Devereaux. I started freaking out because the top 2 matches on my DNA ancestry test were Devereaux's. So I knew that I was related to these people somehow. I messaged these 2 top matches several times over the past several years and have had no response. In the meantime, I had traveled to Texas to try to get my records unsealed, which was a dead end. I was just really discouraged and thought it was the end. Until this last summer, I was going through my adoption papers again with my husband, and he saw another area that was whited out of my birth grandfather, and it said professor at blank. And my husband was able to decipher underneath that the whited out portion said UVCC, Utah Valley Community College. I live in Utah. That is in Utah. I started freaking out. I'm gonna Google the first match on my DNA ancestry, Richard Devereaux, professor at UVCC, and see if anything pops up. I Googled it, and my grandpa's obituary popped up. And again, started freaking out. They usually list children on obituaries, and I found my birth mom. I found her name. I knew it was her because I immediately Facebooked all of the girl names, and I found hers. And people had wished her a happy birthday some year, and I did the math of how old she was minus 34, and it was 17, so I knew that was her. It was so surreal. Messaged her on Facebook, and she didn't respond until Christmas, and she eventually saw it in December on Christmas, messaged me back. That's how I found her, via Ancestry DNA and the whited out mistakes on my adoption papers. Was literally a miracle